may be seated. I don't know about you, but these past 6 years on planet Earth have been dizzying, to say the least. Starting with COVID and all of its fallout, to massive cultural upheavals, and now escalating global conflicts. It feels like there is really no place to put our feet. Once more, it's getting harder and harder to perceive what is true. For example, numerous times during these fractious years, two groups of people can witness the same event and come to completely different conclusions based on their presuppositions. Moreover, both groups hold their views so tightly that they will not even consider the other's perspective, let alone find middle ground. Trying to wade through these narratives and gaslighting feels like an impossible task. Truly, it's getting more difficult to find solid ground amid the tumult. Well, what we celebrate on Maundy, Thursday provides just that. In his words and actions, Jesus gives us a solid and breathtaking picture of God that provides a place to stand amid troubling waters. First, you have Jesus washing the feet of his disciples. That's found in our gospel reading. As I'm rereading a small portion of it, listen closely to what leads Jesus to take on such a degrading action. John says, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given him all things, and that he had come from God and was going back to God, rose from supper, laid aside his outer garments, and taking a towel, tied it around his waist. Then he poured out water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet. Now, the way John says it is quite heady, but you can pretty much sum it up like this. It is Jesus' realization, or Jesus' understanding of his divine identity that leads him to take on the role of a servant. Therefore, this action is a case of God revealing God. What's revealed then becomes evident as Jesus makes his way to Peter, who says, Lord, you will not wash my feet. Though the response comes from a good place, it's defective in its understanding of what Jesus is doing. Therefore, Jesus responds by saying, what I'm doing you don't understand now, but afterwards you will. The afterwards is the cross. Therefore, Jesus responds by saying, and this becomes apparent as Peter continues to protest, saying, you shall never wash my feet. To which Jesus says, if I do not wash you, you have no share with me. In other words, Jesus' lowly action of washing the disciples' feet points to his lowest of acts, where he submits himself to a criminal's death on the cross for our cleansing. If Peter won't accept the former, Jesus is saying he'll have nothing to do with the latter. Now consider how this solid and breathtaking picture of God gives us a place to stand in troubling waters. When we no longer know who or what to believe, we do know who God is for us. He takes on the form of a servant to make us clean. For example, in his word, even right this moment, Jesus is scrubbing away at your dirty interior. As he says to his disciples later that same evening, already you are clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Friends, what's true of them is true of us. Therefore, you have solid ground amid the tumult. This then brings us to the second portrait of God that Jesus gives us on Maundy, Thursday. The same evening that Jesus washed the feet of his disciples, he took the bread and wine and declared, this is my body and blood, given and shed for you for the forgiveness of sin. To say it another way, in disorienting times, when you don't know all the whats, the whys, and the hows, you do know who God is for you. He is a God who gives himself to you for the forgiveness of sin. Therefore, when the ground beneath your feet feels like it's shifting, run to his promise of forgiveness. life and salvation that's delivered in the sacrament, there you will find an unshakable place to stand. So this week, as confusion continues to blare from all directions, consider Jesus' last night with his disciples and the picture of God he painted. Even right now, Jesus is making your heart clean through his word. And in mere moments, he will deliver forgiveness, life, and salvation in, with, and under the bread and wine. You have a solid place to stand.